Bezras Hashem. Today's daf is Masechta Zevachim Daf Nun Gimel, number 53. And we're going to start from Daf Nun Beis Amid Beis. Just right before the Mishnah, Tanur Rabbanon. And just to close off the conversation we had yesterday. We were discussing yesterday, is there a mitzvah that to drop the leftover blood into a drain that's on the outside mizbeach. Let's see if I could bring you a picture. You see, he's pouring the rest of the blood over here in this picture on the outside mizbeach. He may have sprinkled on the inside mizbeach, but is there a mitzvah to bring the leftover blood? And if you don't bring the leftover blood, then the carbon is not kosher. That was the discussion yesterday. So the Gemara brings a brisa. Tanur Rabbanim, the brisa taught v'chila makaper. On Yom Kippur, the blood is sprinkled on the inside of the base, inside of the sanctuary, right? Tanur Rabbanim. Hi, Alan. We just began. Membez and mebez. So we're talking about over here. The Tanur Rabbanim v'chila makaper, that you finish doing the blood sprinkling on the carbonos that are brought in the sanctuary on Yom Kippur. So we darshan like this: Im kippur kila. If you did all the sprinklings on the inside, kila, then you finished the job. B'mloi kippur, if you didn't do all the sprinklings on the inside of the sanctuary, I guess also by the mizbeach hapnimi, by the proiches, and some of them go inside the kodesh kodashim. Like kila, then you didn't finish the job, and you weren't yotzei. Divrei Rabbi Kiva. These are the words of Rabbi Kiva. Amalai Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said, "But may na loy nemba." Why doesn't it say im keep kila keeper? The im loy kila loy keeper. What? Why doesn't it say that if you did do the entire job, keeper, you get the kapara? If you didn't do the entire job, you don't get the kapara. Shem ich, so it comes to teach you, Shem chiser achas mikos hamatanis, if you miss one of the sprinklings, leyasu leklum, you aren't yaitse. So the chila means you have to do it completely. So it seems that they're both, Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yehuda, saying the same thing. Basically, they're just saying that in order to be yaitse, the mitzvah of the carbon on Yom Kippur, you have to make sure to do all the sprinklings on the pareiches, the sprinklings on the Bnei Zbeach HaPnimi, and the sprinklings inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim by the Aron. But the darshan, one darshan's v'chila kiper. If he darshans word number two, kiper, then kila, then you finish the job. And Rabbi Yehuda said, no, chila, if you want to finish the job, mechaper, you have to do all the sprinklers. So the Gemara says, my benai, what's the difference between the two? Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi had a machlekes. How do you define the difference between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Akiva? Chadama once said, mashma os darshan ika benayo. Some said that it's just a way to translate the Chumash. And therefore, that's basically what the Chumash is saying. The Chumash is saying that on the Karbonos and Yom Kippur, that the blood sprinkling was inside the Heichal, you don't have to have leftover blood. If you didn't have leftover blood, it's also okay. And it's just Torah is telling you how to make sure that you were yaitze the mitzvah. Make sure you do all the sprinklings that you're supposed to do on the Kodesh Kodashim and the Proiches and the Mizbeach HaPnimi. Make sure you do it all. So it's just the machlekes how you darshan this pasuk v'chila mekaper. V'chad amar, and one says shirayim akvin ik benayo. That the question is, do you have to have leftover blood to pour on the outside mizbeach? Rabbi Yishmael, so this one learns that Rabbi Yehuda, says im kila kiper. It means you have to do everything, even the stuff that's not mentioned in Parshas Achrei Mos, which is just derived from a pasuk in by Par Helam Davashot, by Par Makar Mashiach, that your marba, even a Par Yom Kippur, that you have to have shirayim, you have to have leftovers, and if you don't have leftovers, then you're not yotzei the carbon. That's Rabbi Yehuda is more stricter than Rabbi Kiva. So Tistayim, the Gemara says Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Huda Amar Shrayim Akve. It must be Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was the one that said that the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Kiva is that shirayim can hold you back from the kashrus of the animal, because it's only the Amar Rabbi Shua Levi. Rabbi Shua Levi says l'divrei ha'omer shirayim ya'akrim. If there's opinion shirayim ya'akrim, if you spilled out the blood before you poured any extra blood by the orila, by the outside mizbeach, maybe par echad umaschel b'schil b'fnim, you have to bring another par Yom Kippur and start over again. So according to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, there was an opinion that held shirayim ma'akvin, and therefore that opinion must be Rabbi Yehuda. And so if Rabbi Yochanan must be the other opinion that everybody holds in this brisa, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Akiva both hold in the brisa, that there is no din that you have to have shirayim. And therefore, it's only Rabbi Shua ben Levi that said, no, the machlekes is do shirayim ma'akvin, and it's Rabbi Yehuda who holds shirayim ma'akvin, and therefore Rabbi Shua ben Levi commented that according to Rabbi Yehuda, if you spilled out the blood before you get a chance to do the pouring by the outside mizbeach, you have to start over again. So says the Gemara, Ati Rabbi Yochanan Leslei Haisvar, does not Rabbi Yochanan hold that there is an opinion that holds shirayim ma'akvin? Rabbi Yochanan said, Tanu Rabbi Nechemia Kedivra Aimim shirayim ma'akvin. Rabbi Nechemia aligned himself with the opinion that holds shirayim ma'akvin. So it must be that Rabbi Yochanan holds that there is some Tana out there that holds shirayim ma'akvin. So Rabbi Yochanan also says, El Kedivrei Omer v'lav lahari tanoi. What Rabbi Yochanan meant to say is that there is a Tana, but it's not Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Kiva. So Hachinami, you could say the same thing. Rabbi Shuma Levi was referring to another Tana who holds shirayim ma'akvin, but between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yehuda, you could say Mashmois Darshanik Manai that they both hold shirayim ein ma'akvin. Basically, bottom line is there might be an opinion out there that shirayim are ma'akvin, that you must have it leftover blood to pour down the drain, but we don't know who it is, so we'll leave it at that. New Mishnah, chatois hatzibur v'hayachid. There's a chatois hatzibur that the carbon, everybody chips in and buys a carbon chatas, v'hayachid, and they're carbon chatas that individual did an avera, you got to bring a carbon chatas. So the Mishnah says, Elohein chatois hatzibur. The following are the chatois of the tzibur. Siri Rosh Chodashim Shel Ma'ades. Every yontiv, every Rosh Chodesh, they brought a goat. Shchitasim b'tzafon. You shechted on the north side of the base of Mikdash, right, just opposite the mizbeach. V'kibul damim b'chlisharis b'tzafim. You catch the blood in a keli in the north side. The dam and toin abba matonis al abba kronis, and you have to put the bloods on four bloods on the four different corners. So ketzad, how do you do that? So I'm going to show you the picture. Very simple. The Mishnah is describing when you're going to go up the ramp, you take a side road to a smaller ramp, and you go around on top of the. Let's say I have a better picture. Here you go. You see over here. You go up the ramp over here, and you're going to go onto this smaller ramp, and the kohen is going to sprinkle on this side, right? Let me just draw it right over here, and on this side, and 3 and 4. So that's how you do it. Not the top corner. According to the Mishnah, it's not the top corner. All of a kevis, you go up the ramp, in front of the soiviv, and you go on the smaller surrounding ramp, the mini ramp. The platform. You reach the first corner, which is southeast. Then you go to Mizrachas. Then you pour a little blood there. Mizrachas Tzvanis. Then you go to the northeast corner. Then Tzvanis Maravis, the northwest corner. Maravis, the Roimis, and the southwest corner. And here we hear the Mishnah says, Shiare Hadam. Again, the leftover blood. What are you going to do with it? There's a hole on the bottom over here. So Shiari Adam, Droimi on the south side, because we're gonna tell you that there really was 2 different holes. So the south hole is right here where the arrow is, not the west hole, and you pour it down that drain. The nacholem and the carbon chatas is eaten lifnim min hakloim, within the curtains. Basically, curtains is a Mishkan term, which means like this: you have to eat it within in the base of Mikdash, which is called the Azara. In the Mishkan term, it's within the curtains. So the carbon chatas is eaten there, Who Chanem eat in it. L'zichrei Kuna, only male Koyanim eat there. B'chol machol, they can serve it up any which way. Whereas the Korban Pesach, you have to serve it roasted. Here it can be cooked or whatever. L'yoyim v'layla, they have a day, and that night to eat it. Ad chatzos, they eat it till midnight, and then that's it. It becomes nicer. Says the Gemara. The Gemara has a machlekes. What do you do? So let's do the illustrations. So how do you make the corner? According to one opinion, is you could sprinkle the corner. Here's the corner, right? You can see the red line, the red dotted line is the corner. So you could sprinkle within the line of the corner, right? But it doesn't have to be on the sharp point. It could be within an amma of the corner. But another opinion is going to hold that you have to have it mamish on the red corner line, right here, the red corner line. That's the machlekes. So the Gemara says, Heicha Ovid, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar, how do you sprinkle the blood? Chadam am nois an amma ve'elech, you can put an amma ve'elech and amma ve'elech, which is, let me see, you can put it anywhere over here, wherever have it marked red. That's one opinion. The Chadam one says no. You have to do it mamish on the coin on the corner, on the spitz. That's what we'll call it, the spitz, as I pointed out before, and this on the mamish on the corner. That is the machlekes. So the Gemara says like this: Ali b'Rab Elazar ben Rab Shimon the Amahi Atzmein Nasal Gufa Shel Kareb Kuliyamalei Pligi. There is an opinion that held that no, you have to mamish go on top of the mizbeach and put it like you see on the block. There was on top of the mizbeach, there was a big block there. That's where you're supposed to put it. So then everybody agrees that you sprinkle it anywhere on this block, and that's okay. The machlekes is if you hold that you don't sprinkle it on the block, you sprinkle it on the wall. So do you have to be on the sharp part of the wall, the point of the wall, or it could be anywhere within an amma of the wall, like as you can see in the picture. So the Kuliyah, so there says, according to Rabbi Elazar Shimon, the Amma Hiatzmei Nasal Begufa Shel Karen, you only put it onto the block piece, the Kuliyah Malay Pligi, everybody doesn't argue. You can put it any which way as long as you're on the block. Ki Pliga Liba the Rebbe, according to Rebbe. Marsava, one held, Amma Elech, Amma Elech. You have an Amma this way and an Amma this way. Kineged Karenhu. It's just the opposite, the block on top, the corner piece. Marsava, and one holds, Kineged Chuda in Tvei Lo. You only have the sharp point to put the blood and not more. So Gemara says, Mary Svei, I'm going to ask you a question against this Amoira. How do you put the blood? You went up the ramp. You stick the Bryce says, you stick your finger in the blood. The most strongest of your right hand, which is your index finger. Min hadam shebizrizak, from into the blood that is in that mizrak. Mizrak is the vessel that's holding the blood. You squeeze it, I don't know, with your thumb on top and the finger on the bottom. I guess you squeeze it with your thumb on top and I don't know. Here's the key. Kineged chuda shel karen. You put it on the pointy part of the corner until you run out of blood. So you see from there that it actually went on the sharp part of the corner. So how could you say that you have all this space to do it? And says the Gemara, mitzvah b'chuda. Everybody agrees there's a mitzvah to do it on the sharp point. But i'avid amma elech, amma elech less than ba. But the other opinion holds that if you do it with an amma within the sharp point, within the sharp corner, that's also okay. But everybody holds mitzvah to do it by the sharp point. So the Gemara says, we just discussed that Rebbe holds that you could do it below the corner. My Rabbi Shimon says it has to be on the block on top. Rabbi Shimon held that it was on this block, as you can see my arrow over here. So Gemara says, what machlekes was that discussing? The Tanya looked in a brisa. Damin mel yayin nitana michut hasekol lamala, but damin tachtoin nitana michut hasekol lamala. Divrei Rebbe. Rebbe holds that there was a red, and everybody holds there was like a red line, sort of, that circled the base, circled the mizbeach, and what it means is you have to put the blood on top of that red line, of course, towards the corner. but you don't have to be mamish on the corner. That was the opinion of Rebbe. By Oilus Oif, you're right. That was a bird. You don't put it on the corner, you put it on the wall above the red dividing line on the Mizbeach. Only by another side. But behema, hiyatzbein and asa gulfa shekarim. But animal carbon that you have to put mamish on that corner, mamish on the top of the mizbeach. Amar Ababo, my time with the Rebbe. What is the reason of Rebbe? So the Ksiv, it's an interesting pasuk in Yecheskel that really lays out the architect and the drawings of the third base of Migdash, and it says Vaharel Abra Hariel Ulamala. So it's mashma when it describes the mizbeach that it was 4 amas. Says the Gemara says Arba Amas Udahava. Was the mizbeach 4 amas? The mizbeach was 4 amas. The mizbeach was high 10 amas. Amar Avada Brahaba Koim Karnas Arba. It means that the corners were 4 amas. So it says the Gemara Koim Karnas Dalet Hava. Elaema Rishus Kranis Dalet. What it means is that the corners had 4 amas, 1 amma this way, 1 amma this way, and squared an amma. It was a squared amma, but it had a real top corner. And basically, what it's saying over here is, I'm sorry, that according to Rebbe, it was you have 4 amas. If the height of the mizbeach is 10 amas, you have 4 amas. I'm writing the number 4 from the red line till the corner. And maybe that's what it's saying. From this point and on, that's a good place where a person could do the sprinkling of a chatas behema. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. Tanan Hasan, we learned in the Mishnah. Chutz shel sikra choygre be'emsa. Lahavdil ben damin hu el yom l'dam tachtainim. There was a red string that wrapped around the red line, that wrapped around the middle of the mizbeach, to differentiate between bloods that was supposed to be sprinkled on top of that red line to blood that was sprinkled on the bottom of the red line. So the Gemara says, "Mili, how do I know that idea?" In the Chumash, when it describes the mizbeach in the Mishkan, let's see if I have a picture. Yes, it says you put a red. It was like a netting around in the middle, reshes. You see, this is the reshes where I'm pointing, or maybe this was the netting. But the bottom line is, so we see that there was a difference. Why was there a net there? To divide the mizbeach between the upper half and the lower half. So in the Beis Hamikdash also, when they built the mizbeach, they put a red line dividing between the upper half and the lower half. Remember, oilus is on the lower half and chatas is on the upper half. Not always, but by chatas oif, we actually have on the upper half. Says the Gemara, Tan Rabbanim, El Yisoid Mizbeach, Ze Yisoid Roimi, Ata Oime Yisoid Roimi, and El Yisoid Maravi. We said that you pour the blood in this is where I have my marker over here, where I have my finger. That's where you pour the blood of the chatas. Down this is the south one. And where he's pouring in the picture, it's the western one. So which hole do you put it down? So by chatas, it says you put it down by the south one and not the western one. It says the Gemara, Maravi, so I would say that the chatas panimi, you always put it down on the western one. By the chatas panimi, you always put it down on the western hole. So I would say a chatas chitzoini, where it doesn't tell you where to put it also by the western hole. Omarta, no. Yilmad yiridasim in a keves liitziasim in a hechel. Ma yitziasim in a hechel b'samachloi, af yiridasim in a keves b'samachloi. The reason by a chatas chitzoini, let's go back to the first picture, when you come down that ramp, when the kohen comes down that ramp, the first hole that he encounters will actually be the one that's going to be on the southern side, right over here, on the southern side, not the one on the western side. When you're coming out of the heichal, the sanctuary, which is over here, then you're bringing the blood. You put it into the western hole. But when you do a chatas chitzoni, which was only performed on the outside mizbeach, the first hole you're going to encounter is the southern hole. That's the opinion of our Mishnah. Tanya, Rabbi Yishmael disagreed, and he said both the Chatas Pnimi and Chatas Chitzoni, Zev Zev Yisoid Meravi, both belong on the western hole. Rabbi Shimon ben Yechoya, Zev Zev Yisoid Meravi, they're supposed to be on the southern hole. So the Gemara says, Bishlam on the Yom Yisoid Meravi, Ksavi Yil Mishas Menefarish. Maybe that's Yisoid Meravi is very clear by Chatas Pnimi, by Chatas Kain Mashiach. The Torah tells you put it on the hole that's opposite the Mizbeach, right when you come out of the sanctuary, right when you come out of the Heichel. And so you'll say a Chatas Chitzoni should follow a Chatas Panimi. Elamande Ami Sori Droimi my Tama, but according to the opinion that says Rabbi Shimon ben Yechoy, who says Zev Zeh Yisoy Droimi, what's the reason for that? Amar Avasik Savaitana Kula Mizbeach B'Tzofen Koi L'Shanachrina Kula Pesach B'Darim Kar. Here you need a picture because according to Rabbi Shimon ben Yechoy, you're going to see this. You're going to see that the whole Mizbeach was pushed off to the north. Let's see. Let me see. Over here. They're pushed off to the north. So according to this, there is no western. When you leave the Heichal, when he left the Heichal, he came across to the south first. And therefore, that's why you pour it into the south hole, because there is no western hole, because that wasn't opposite the door opening of the sanctuary, as you can see in the picture. So now we go to Amid Beis. Tanu, we learned in a Brisa, Tanu Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel taught, Rabbi Shimon ben Yechoy, like Rabbi Shimon ben Yechoy, that that Rabbi Shimon ben Yechoy said, Zev Zeh Yisoid my Rabbi. Tanu Rabbi Shmuel said that Rabbi Shimon ben Yechoy finally agreed to them that there was a western hole. If you want to remember that Rabbi Shimon ben Yechoy had less Talmidim, Rabbi Shmuel had more Talmidim, and they were able to drag Rabbi Shimon ben Yechoy's Talmidim to their side to say that Zev Zeh Yisoid Ma'aravi, that both the Chatas Panimi and the Chatas Chitzoni are on the western hole. But we paskin like this. In our Mishnah, it's very clear. Chatas Chitzoni is on that western hole, but a Chatas Panimi is on that western hole, and a Chatas Chitzoni, you're going to do, as I pointed out, you point it on the southern hole. When you're coming out of the base of the Heichal, you put it in this hole. When you're doing a Chatas Chitzoni, coming off the Mizbeach, you put it in the southern hole. New Mishnah. Oila Kodesh Kodshim. Oila is like Kodesh Kodshim. What does that mean? That you're not allowed to take it out of the base of Migdash. You're not allowed to take it out of the base of Migdash or makrav it outside the base of Migdash. And you could have Mi'ila in it, and there's a concept of Mekusa Kippurim. So it's the Holy of the Holies, Karbon. Shchitasam Mitzafim, V'chibadam Chilidam Misham Mitzafim, V'dam Ton, Shtei Maton Yeshein Arba. The way you do a carbon chatas is what? This way. You sprinkle on one corner, and it splashes to two quarters. That's two splashes, which turned out to go on all four walls. I want to point out to you that you do it on the walls that have a yesoid on them, that have the foundation, because part of the mizbeach did not have a yesoid, as you can see in the picture. I have it over here. Part of the mizbeach did not have a yesoid, so you did it. Make sure to do it over the corners that had a yesoid underneath them. Says the Mishnah. V'tuna hafshet, you have to skin the animal, v'nituach, and cut it up into pieces, v'cholel ishem, and you have to totally burn the whole carbon with all its meat onto the mizbeah. Says the Gemara, oila maitama tanule kachi kachim. Why does the Mishnah say ha'oila kodesh kachim? We know that the Chumash calls a chatas kodesh kachim and ashim kodesh kachim, and the Mishnah doesn't say that. But only by the oila it says, oh, oila is kachi kachim. And says the Gemara, that's precisely right. Since the Torah did not write kachi kachim, it's only us throwing it in there. So we're writing that it's kachi kachim. It's only Chazal interpret it. It says Lashem that oil is also kachi kachim. That's why the Mishnah stressed it, because it wasn't written in the Chumash. Says the Gemara, v'dame te'aton shtei matonis. It needs two sprinklings. Heicha avid. So you see in the picture over here that he did one splash and it lasted on two walls, but not everybody agrees to that. Amarav noisin v'chayzav noisin. You give one splash on every single wall. That's called four splashes. Shmuel says, Matana achas kimin gama noisen. It was a one splash that spread to both walls on the corner. So it's machlekes Rav and Shmuel. Ketanoi, like this is exactly what the machlekes Tanoim is all about. I would think you do one splash, that's it. Talmud Loimer Saviv. The Torah tells you that you have to sprinkle the blood on each part of the Beis Hamikdash, on each part of the Mizbeach, around the Mizbeach. Saviv, if it just says Saviv, so then maybe you have to rub the blood all like one line all around the Mizbeach, like a string. Talmud Laim of Zarku, you have to splash it. Halkeit said, Kimin Gama, Shtei Matana Shein Arba. You do it like it's like a dalid that you splash on one wall and it sprinkles onto the two walls. That's the opinion of the Tanakama. Rabbi Shmuel says Nemakan Saviv, the Nemalahalan Saviv. It says by Saviv by the oilet. It says Saviv by the inauguration karbonos that Moshe Rabbeinu brought as they were setting up the Mishkan. Malahalan Pisik V'Abba B'Tanis. Over there, it was actually four separate giving of the blood. Afkan, Pisik, there was an interruption. V'Abba Matanis in four different givings of the blood. So according to Rabbi Shmuel, you actually had to do four splashes on each of the walls of the Mizbeach. If you're comparing the oila to Saviv, to the karbanos that were brought in the Shivas Yimei Maluim, then maybe every carbon oila you'd have to go on top of the Mizbeach and put it on the corners. Amrit, oila tu'uni yisaid, v'keren mizrachas teroinis, loy haya loy yisaid. So the answer is, it's very difficult. You can't do it on all the four corners because if you look at the base, here's an aerial view, you couldn't put the oila on this corner over here because there is no yisaid. As you see, there's no foundation. It doesn't stick out. You see, only the foundation was on this side, a little bit on this side, and a little bit on that side. So in order to do this correctly, the oila had to be brought at the two corners, but you're not all the way around even by this corner because there is no yisaid. So therefore, according to Shmuel, they actually made it one splash and it splashed on both walls. According to Rav, they actually touched each wall a little bit, splash on this wall and a splash on this wall, but they did it separately, but not on the four corners, Let's just do one last line. And then we'll stop. My Tama. The question is, the Kerem Mizrayich Dramis Lai. But we just got through saying that the southeast corner of the Mishkan, let's see from the aerial view, the southeast corner of the Mishkan, here's east, okay? In this picture, east, and here is west, right? So north, it would be north, and here would be south, right? So the southeast corner did not have a yisaid. So the question is, my Tama, why doesn't it have a yisaid? And here we'll conclude. That means that it just so happened that the whole Mishkan, the whole Mizbeach has to be in whose chelik? It has to be in the chelik it has to be in the chelik of. I'm sorry, it has to be in the chelik of Yehuda. That's the Mishkan. It has to be in the chelik of Binyamin. And because this part was in the chelik of Yehuda, and somehow it encroached on the chelik of Binyamin, it reached over, so they didn't put a yisaid over here. They didn't put a yisaid. Here's a nice, good aerial view of where the yisaid was, and this brown part was a part belonging to Yehuda, and the rest of the Mizbeach was the part belonging to Binyamin. So the sprinkling had to be done on the Mizbeach, on the parts belonging to Binyamin, and therefore there was no yisaid there was no foundation on the other side. Okay, we'll see more about that in the next daf. Okay, have a good Shabbos, everybody.